I've read hundreds of state appraisal board decisions over the years, and I have never seen one that says, Mr. or Ms. Appraiser, your appraisal was not accurate. I've seen them say your appraisal was not credible, but I have never seen them say your appraisal was not accurate, because that is not a standard to which appraisers are held.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you in the podcast chair. I want to remind you we are sponsored by a la mode. A la mode, of course, is the software that I use to get my appraisals done and done efficiently. Check them out. Go to alamode.com, or you can call them at 800-ALA-MODE. Speaking of efficient, another sponsor here, of course, is DataMaster. You can find them at datamasterusa.com. And why would you want to go there, folks? Because you want to save 30 to 60 minutes per report. I don't know about you, but I'm doing a lot of appraisals right now. Very, very busy. When you start adding up 30 to 60 minutes per report for every one of those reports, it's a big number. Check them out again. Go to datamasterusa.com, datamasterusa.com. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is the E&O that I have been using for many years. And one of the great things about OREP is their continuing ed, and I want to talk to you about that in just a little bit. But for now, you can check them out at orep.org. Again, it's orep.org. I want to welcome back to the program my good friend and USPAP expert, MAI, out of Florida. His name is Tim Andersen. Tim, welcome back.
Dustin, thank you. As always, it is a pleasure to be with you and an honor to be with your listeners.
The pleasure and the honor is mine, my friend. It's always good to talk to somebody that knows a whole lot more than I do about a very important...
Let me go find somebody. Hang on.
You don't have to look far, my friend. Just look in the mirror. Tim, of course, is a MAI. He is a USPAP instructor out of Florida. And one of the things that, Tim, you don't actively appraise anymore, right?
No, I haven't written, I just did commercial work, and then I have not written an appraisal in 5 years. I've helped other appraisers write appraisals, but I have not written, so I have not signed a certification with my name on it in 5 years.
Yeah, and your time now is spent as a consultant for appraisers. Even though USPAP says we cannot have any influence, if you will, that we need to remain unbiased, in your line of work, you can be very biased and you can be an advocate for appraisers. In fact, one of your email addresses is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. What does that mean, that you can advocate for appraisers?
Well, yes, appraisers have to be impartial, objective, independent. And in that sense, I do too. But yet I can sit down with you and say, you know what, Dustin, you might want to relook at this because it's wrong.
Yeah.
And here's what you need to do to fix it. Or, Dustin, okay, you got 3 sales here. What are the sales you didn't use? And you look at me and go, what? And I say, well, Dustin, let's face it. Standard Rule 1-4 says you gotta analyze all the data. Did you analyze all the data, or just the data that happened to be on your computer and in the same neighborhood? So when I say I'm the appraiser's advocate, yes, one of the things I advocate is that appraisers understand what it is they must do to come up with an unbiased opinion of value. Plus, I will be happy to help appraisers work and defend themselves against state charges. And in many cases, I also work with their counsel in negotiating penalties when that's appropriate.
Yeah, love it. One of the things that Tim has done for me and has done for a lot of the Dream Team members here at the Appraiser Coach is, Tim, you'll have an appraiser send 2 or 3 sample appraisals, and they may be cookie cutters, they may be difficult ones. You keep all of this information confidential, of course, but one of the things that you'll do is go through a typical report and say, you know, you may not want to do this, and you may want to do that, and you may want to beef this area up, and you may want to trim this area down so that we can feel a lot more comfortable moving forward so that state board doesn't come calling, right?
Right. That's another way I advocate. You coach, I mentor.
Yeah.
And I get a great deal of pleasure out of helping appraisers become not only better appraisers, but stay away from their state boards.
Love it. Yeah, very important. All right, Tim, this is a series, of course, that we've had over, boy, it's been quite a few months now that we've been doing this series called Dear USPAP Instructor. Seems like we have lots of questions coming in. And by the way, I want to clarify, if that intimidates you and you think, well, they don't have time for my question, please don't feel that way. One of the things, go ahead, Tim.
Yes, we do.
I love it. And one of the things, it may be several weeks before we get these questions on the air, but one of the things that Tim and I try to do when these questions come in is we try to answer them via email or however you sent the message right away. And so you don't have to wait for an answer to have it hit the air. The reason we bring it on the air, in fact, today's question is one of those that you've already answered several weeks ago to somebody, and yet it's a question that probably should apply to many appraisers, and thus, with their permission, we're sharing the question, and not necessarily the name of the person, but the question and the answer, right, Tim?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's talk. I'm not going to read the whole question because it's quite extensive, but I think it's a very, very important question, and it's I know a conversation that you and I have had in the past as well, maybe not necessarily on the air, and I think it's important that we put it out there. And basically, this reader, and I don't know whether this or listener rather is male or female, but he or she writes about doing something they've never done before. And that actually is sitting down and reading from start to finish the whole 1004 form. By the way, something I highly recommend people do, right, Tim?
At least once in their professional careers, yes.
Well, and I've gotten the habit in the last little while of trying to do that once a year. And it seems like every time I read it, I see something and go, I don't remember seeing that before.
That's because the last time you read it, you fell asleep.
That's probably true. But this individual kind of pinpointed on a word that is kind of an important word when it comes to the Fannie Mae 1004 form. Okay, we're talking Fannie Mae here. But the sentence is, the purpose of this summary appraisal report is to provide the lender/client with an accurate, and then, there's an ellipsis there because the rest of the sentence is opinion of the market value of the subject property. And the word we're talking today, Tim, is accurate. What does it mean to have an accurate appraisal?
I haven't a clue because there is no way to measure the accuracy of an appraisal. You can measure the accuracy of a meter. There's a meter stick at the National Bureau of Standards in Washington, D.C. And there is a scientifically precise measurement of a meter, and it has to do with the speed of light and time and a few other things. In other words, to determine accuracy, you have to be able to compare it with something else.
Yes.
Well, okay, what can you compare your opinion of value with? Some appraisers say, bankers love to say, well, you can compare it with the purchase and sale agreement. Well, that's true, but that begs the question that the purchase and sale agreement's right. And of course, that has never been proven. So as a result, there is no such thing as an accurate appraisal. Fannie Mae, the GSEs do not define what accuracy is. The only standards by which we have to do an appraisal are those of USPAP. And USPAP does not require accuracy. USPAP doesn't use the word accuracy in Standard 1. It uses merely the term credible, which means worthy of belief, which frankly is a rather loose standard. But when Fannie Mae, when the GSE say we need an accurate appraisal, they have the right to use whatever language they want to. But it is ambiguous, it's imperfect, it means nothing because there is no such thing as an accurate appraisal. There never has been, there never will be, because there is nothing against which to measure it.
Well, here's the problem with that, Tim, and I think that you understand this as well as I do, that the question that came from the listener is, I sign my name to this every single time I sign a 1004 report. In other words, I'm certifying that I just provided an accurate appraisal that you just said doesn't exist.
Dustin, you just discovered one of the great unsecret secrets of real estate appraisal.
All right, so you talk about the word credible, and that is a word that's used in USPAP. What's this word, or what's this term worthy of belief mean?
Do you get your data from the market or do you make it up? Do you adjust your comparable sales per market data, or do you make the adjustments up? When you reconcile the various data and various approaches in your appraisal report, do you reconcile it based on what the market says, or the fact that you're hungry and need a haircut? We're looking at a situation where credible means worthy of belief. In other words, you followed standard one. Now, Dustin, you can follow standard one. Send me that appraisal, and I can write back and say, Dustin, I utterly, totally, completely disagree with your value opinion, but I completely see how you got there.
Right.
Therefore, even though I may disagree with your value opinion, your value opinion is credible. In other words, it's worthy of belief.
Interesting. Okay, so you can have a different opinion on an appraisal, but as long as it is credible or worthy of belief, you may be safe. Is that what you're saying?
Well, an opinion derives its authority from its provenance. If your opinion is crap, then, if your data are crap, your opinion's crap. If your analyses are crap, then your opinion's crap. Whereas if you have market data properly analyzed, then your value conclusion is going to be worthy of belief. Again, I don't have to agree with it. I just have to say, yes, I see how Dustin got from point A to point Z and all points in between. It makes sense. It's credible. I don't like it, but I see it. I follow it.
I don't see very many appraisers saying, okay, well, I heard Dustin and Tim talking about accuracy, and they made a good point. I don't feel comfortable putting my name on a report now, my signature, if you will, that says this is an accurate report, where Tim just told me there's no such thing as an accurate appraisal. So where do we go from here, Tim? Because I don't think many appraisers are going to throw up their hand and say, okay, fine, I guess I stopped doing 1004s.
Well, the great thing is state appraisal boards do not enforce Fannie Mae GSE standards. They enforce USPAP standards. Yeah. And USPAP says credible. It does not say accurate. I've read hundreds of state appraisal board decisions over the years, and I have never seen one that says, Mr. or Ms. Appraiser, your appraisal was not accurate. I've seen them say your appraisal was not credible, but I have never seen them say your appraisal was not accurate, because that is not a standard to which appraisers are held.
We're talking with Tim Andersen. He is a USPAP expert out of Florida and a good friend of mine, a very smart guy. We're going to come back with another question from another listener. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by a la Mode. A la Mode, of course, over 2 decades, folks, is the software that I've been using to complete my appraisal process in a credible manner. It helps me to do that because I'm able to analyze all the data in the marketplace, and you should be able to as well. Take a look at your software. Does it allow the same thing? Does it make it easy and efficient to do the same thing? If not, pick up the phone, folks, and call a la Mode at 800-ALA-MODE, or you can pick up your computer and dial in www.alamode.com. Speaking of analyzing data, how about the master of data? Of course, when I'm talking about Data Master, that you can find a Data Master USA will help you to analyze lots of data all at once, especially with Data Master 6. Folks, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause this recording, and I want you to go to your computer. I want you to type in datamasterusa.com, and then I want you to find the map of coverage areas, okay, or the list, rather, of coverage areas for Data Master, and find out if Data Master 6 or even the original Data Master is in your area. The original Data Master will save you 30 to 60 minutes report. Data Master 6 will allow you to analyze that data much more efficiently before you even go to your software. Again, it's datamasterusa.com. One more time, datamasterusa.com. Well, folks, I want to tell you quickly about a story. This is a true life story. I just got done with 14 of the 15 CE credits I need for the 3 states that I'm licensed in. 14 of those credits came from OREP. That's right. I don't know if you knew that, but OREP, if you are a member, has CE that you can take. And by the way, if you are a member, the cost, ready for this? Are you sitting down? Absolutely free. Cost me $0 to sign up for 14 credits of CE. And by the way, it was excellent continuing education. It was online. I was able to take it on my phone at my convenience. Folks, if you're not with OREP, you need to check them out. Go to orep.org. One more time, it's orep.org. back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair with my good friend Tim Andersen, who's answering questions from the listeners. This episode, of course, is called Dear USPAP Instructor, and you can reach out to us a variety of different ways. You can email me, the coach, at theappraisercoach.com, or you can reach out to Tim. His email address is tim@theuspapexpert.com, tim@theuspapexpert.com. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for your time today, Tim.
Justin, thank you. As always, it's great to be with you.
It's great to be with you, my friend. Got another question on the table, came in from a listener. Basically says, hey, listen, I recently found a really trashed comparable sale and used it as a comp for my really trashed subject. Okay, sounds okay, right? 2 months later, I got a copy of the review. Okay, this is a review on this appraiser, or appraisal rather, and the reviewer trashed everything in my report, saying that less than a month after that comparable sold, that the buyer raised the improvements on it. Okay, again, this is a really trashed home. So basically, just to sum up, the home was probably purchased for the land underneath it, right, Tim? Is that kind of your understanding?
Yeah, in this particular case, the improvements were trashed, and what the buyer purchased was not the improvements. The buyer just purchased the land and then tore the improvements down.
Yeah, so the listener here that sent in the question, I mean, it's a legitimate question. Does that reviewer have the right to trash me in my report because of something that happened, in the future? As far as I'm concerned, the effective date on the appraisal was, let's say July 15th, and they didn't raise the home until July 30th. Should the appraiser have known better?
Okay, that raises some interesting questions. One of the questions it raises is that of the appraiser's competency. One of the reasons we confirm data is to try to find out what's going on with the property. Now, in this particular instance, had the appraiser gotten in touch with the buyer or the seller or the broker and said, okay, what's the buyer going to do with the property? Then chances are somebody would have said, oh, they're going to tear it down and do something else with the land, which would have indicated this was just a land sale, not an improved sale. Given the fact that it was just a land sale, to use it as an improvement sale is a violation of the theory of highest and best use. Highest and best use says a sale is not a comp unless it has the same highest and best use as the subject. Well, if our correspondent's highest and best use of his or her property was to repair or renovate the improvements, using this particular comparable, the highest and best use of which was raise the improvements, is using a non-comparable comparable. And that calls into question competency, which calls into question credibility, which calls into question the independence, objectivity, and impartiality of the final value opinion.
Okay, so let me twist this just a little bit. I work in an area, as you know, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, that's very high end. It's not uncommon for a very decent home, in my opinion. I mean, we're talking Q3, C3, okay, to sell with a piece of ground, with it, of course. That's what it sits on. It's permanent structure. But then 2 months later, just like is talked about here in the question, someone to completely raise that house and or possibly add on in such a way that the original sale really doesn't reflect what the reality is down the road anyway, or what the intention is. Okay, so in other words, people, sure, they're buying it for the land, but Tim, I don't always know that, and I may reach out to the real estate agent as well to verify the sale. I mean, let's just speak reality here. Most real estate agents, when I call them to verify sales, they're annoyed. I'm taking up their time. I honestly get this a lot, Tim. This is the answer I get. Do you have the MLS? Are you a member of the board? Well, of course I'm a member of the board. I've got the MLS for it. Well, then the information in the MLS is accurate. And not that they slam the phone down, but that's kind of the implication.
A rude realtor? Dustin, I have never heard of such a situation.
Yeah. In other words, they don't give me much information. I mean, I can verify that sale, but they're not going to say, oh yeah, they bought that because they were going to raise it and they just bought it for the land.
Well, they very well may not, but they're definitely not going to unless you ask the question. Now, if you're dealing in your typical 10-year-old subdivision with your typical 10-year-old house in typical C3 condition and Q3 condition, then no, it's not going to get torn down. But when you're dealing with an old property, when you're dealing in a neighborhood where it is common to take 15, 20-year-old houses, tear them down, and start all over again. Then it behooves the appraiser to ask the question. It's part of knowing the market. And can realtors lie to you? Of course, realtors can lie to you. So can bankers and brokers and other appraisers and clergymen and attorneys and so on and so forth. But the point is, if you don't ask the question, you won't get the answer.
Okay.
Now, if you ask the question, you may get a wrong answer,
Sure.
but you've at least got to ask the question. And had our correspondent been able to say, well, this is the question I asked, and the response I got was this, okay, there's probably not going to be a problem.
Right.
But what the way the question is written, the way the question arrived to me, it sounds as if the appraiser depended solely on what was in the MLS printout, implying that he or she did not pick up the phone and try to confirm further details of the transaction.
Right.
And USPAP makes it very clear in Standard Rule 1-4, the appraiser will collect, collect, verify, and analyze all necessary information, with the key word here being verify.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the MLS is going to tell you everything. Sometimes it won't. And part of being an appraiser is knowing when you've got to pick up that phone and ask the extra questions.
Okay, so I don't want to get too off in the weeds, but your response begs a question that I've got to ask, because I know my listeners are chomping at the bit for me to ask it. There are appraisers out there who will say that it is a USPAP requirement to pick up the phone and call, at least try to call or reach out to every single real estate agent on every single potential sale that we use in our reports. Yay or nay?
No, not even close. All USPAP says is that the appraiser will verify data. Now, the GSEs recommend a list of people to call, but USPAP itself, other than require the appraiser to verify the data, says absolutely nothing else. It really doesn't care how you verify it, just that you verify it, and then explain somewhere in the report, usually the reconciliation, what the verification consisted of.
Okay. So back to the topic at hand, this question that came in really has to do with, as you pointed out astutely in the beginning, it's a highest and best use issue. Highest and best use is a huge deal to Tim Andersen, I know.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big deal.
Most appraisal questions, Dustin, come down to highest and best use.
Okay.
And if the appraiser cannot or does not analyze the highest and best use properly, then there can be some really serious problems further on down the road. And Standard Rule 1-1, I think it's Standard Rule 1-1B, basically says you're going to be competent. You're going to know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, then for heaven's sakes, become competent. But you either know what to do, or number one, don't take the job.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, get with somebody who is competent to help you do it. Or number three, hire somebody who's competent to help you complete it. But don't fail to do those simply because the fee isn't big enough. Okay, a lot of times the fee isn't going to be big enough. You're not going to know you're not competent until you're into the job.
Right.
But in that case, the fee you don't earn is called tuition.
Education. Yeah.
And it's the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just the way things are.
Yeah. And speaking of education, there are some great classes out there. I know that you and I have talked about. I think the Appraisal Institute has a great one on highest and best use. You don't have to be an MAI or even SRA to understand highest and best use, right, Tim?
No, you don't. And not to put all the emphasis on the Institute, but for that matter, so does the American Society of Appraisers.
Mm-hmm.
Have some great classes on highest and best use, and so does the IAAO. So it really doesn't make a difference where you take the class, it's that you take the class. And these are not CE classes. You're going to be in a classroom for about a week, and you're going to work very, very hard, and you're going to question the reason you're on the planet about midway through the class. They're that hard. But once you get through, you're going to understand the concept of highest and best use.
Have you and I been friends more than 5 years?
I surely hope so, Dustin.
I want to make sure that the statute of limitations is passed before I make this next announcement, because honestly, it wasn't until I met you that I really understood highest and best use. And I still don't completely understand it, but I didn't realize what a big deal it was until you and I met. So let's just say you go back more than 5 years, and some of my appraisal reports might be a little bit scary.
Well, Dustin, I didn't know there was a statute of limitations on friendship.
Well, hopefully none on ours, because I want to be friends forever, my friend. Tim Andersen out of Florida, MAI USPAP instructor. Tim, if individuals want to learn more about how to beef up, if you will, or better have credible reports and understand what state boards are looking for, how do they reach you?
Dustin, pretty soon I'm going to have a website up specifically for this purpose, to which appraisers can subscribe. I don't yet. We're working on it. In the interim, appraisers can get in touch with me at tim@theappraisersadvocate.com or tim@theUSPAPexpert.com. My phone number is 561-635-5265, and it will be a pleasure to work with all of your listeners.
As always, my friend, to you and your family, thank you for spending time, and my best.
Dustin, thank you, and to you and all of yours, my best as well.
Tim has been a great help to both me and my dream team across the nation. Many of my dream team members have reached out to Tim. What is a dream team? Well, folks, it's a mastermind group where you kind of have a mastermind family, a group of very successful appraisers from across the country. By the way, don't let that intimidate you. They all started out where all of us are, and they have moved to very lofty ends, if you will, of success with their appraisal business. If you're interested in being a part of any of those teams, I have teams across the country, including DC, Chicago, Salt Lake, Dallas, and 2 groups in Las Vegas. Reach out to me, thecoach@theappraisercoach.com, or you can reach out to my assistant, the assistant@theappraisercoach.com. Tim, you have one more thing. You're jumping up and down.
Yeah, I went to the Chicago Mastermind meeting not too long ago.
Yes, you
and
did.
It was great.
Oh.
Every appraiser ought to have that experience.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that, and I'll just shout out, if you've never been to a mastermind group, I will on my tab not only invite you to be a VIP member and to sit in that seat, but also I would invite you to have dinner on me, to lunch on me. I would love to have you as my special guest, just so you can try it out. So Tim, it was a pleasure having you in Chicago, and any appraisers that wants that same experience, reach out to me. I would love to have you. Thanks again, my friend. Appreciate it.
Dustin, thank you. I appreciate it too. Be safe and well.
Likewise, my friend, and each of you, thank you for joining us today. If you have questions, please reach out to the coach at theappraisercoach.com or tim@theUSPAPexpert.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
You got a big day in front of you.
That went well.
I think so.
Yes, it's time for lunch. I'll go have my lunch.
That's funny. I just got done with my coffee, man. It's not even close. All right, friend.